You've tracked the hobgoblins back to their cave, where they're holding your ally hostage. After fighting your way through the tunnels, you've cleared a path to their leader. As you pull your bloody sword from a hobgoblin, the leader shouts, "Stop, or I'll kill him!" while holding a dagger to your friend's throat. Now, do you signal to your ranger to attempt to disarm the leader with an arrow? Or do you continue fighting? Or do you try to bargain with the hobgoblin and end the bloodshed? This is Dungeons and Dragons, and we're Brayden
and Buddy.
And today we're going to give an intro to the wonderful game of D&D.
It is a wonderful game, and the little intro there is kind of what might start it, and then you have to make your own choices.
Right, which is a great question. What is D&D? Right, that's a little synopsis of it, but like you said, it's more of a game about choices, about building a character and telling a story with your friends. When you play D&D, there's a lot of, I think, misconceptions about it. The first one, depending on where you grew up, definitely where we grew up, is that by playing D&D, you worship the devil, which is true.
True. Yep. Yeah. And welcome to our cult.
Which is not true. Not at all. It's just a fun little game with books like these back here, and there is no devil involved in my games, at least. I don't know about you when you don't play with me.
I mean, there are devils in D&D, but it's not like real
it's not
sacrifices.
Real
I love the contrast of that stereotype with the polar opposite of it is a bunch of like ungroomed, unshowered men living in their mom's basements playing for 30 hours straight.
Right, usually really nerdy, lanky. Their glasses are broken and they're like taped up with the white tape, and they're kind of hunched over. And when I want to roll to seduce the dragon is I think the
perpetual Cheeto dust on their fingertips.
Right, yeah. Way too much Mountain Dew. They're very close to like a Kyle for video games. Yeah.
But I love that those are the guys that are also worshiping Satan and gonna bring an end to the world.
Yeah, which I think is factual. I feel like when Satan is summoned to the world, it's gonna be some dweeb-looking guy.
Sort of.
That's been okay.
I think it's gonna be a scientist who accidentally, they combine too many protons.
Yeah, and neurons, and then the electrons speed up.
And then the morons come.
Yeah, and then I was thinking it'd be more like you get the jock, whoever the president will be or something. That's going to be a big old jock, and then they're going to force the dweeb to summon the devil so that they can continue their political career and go for another term.
Fair.
Yeah.
So that's what it's not. What is D&D? It is, ultimately, I think it's a way for you to embrace your inner theater kid and to act out your fantasies.
Right, in a good way. I think a lot of times theater kids have the idea that they're really annoying, which maybe, but I also think they can be really cool. And with that one, this kind of tries to embrace the cool side of it more, not the randomly singing lyrics to people that don't want to have that sung to them or acting out plays in the middle of a Walmart. This is more about, like we said before, cooperative storytelling with your friends, where you build characters, you try to solve puzzles, and you find out one very, very important thing that I think a lot of people need to find out, which is that
you are not smarter than a fifth grader.
No. And I know that for a fact because with D&D, there are two main roles that you can play. You have the DM, the Dungeon Master, which I actually have a funny story about that really quickly where I was working somewhere a number of years ago and I was cashier, and these two girls come up and they're talking about their DMs.
Yeah, they're dungeon masters.
Yeah, they're dungeon masters. So as I'm helping out the cashier, I was like, "Oh, you guys play Dungeons and Dragons? That's so cool! Like, what edition do you guys play? You guys playing a module?" And they're like, "What? You guys said your DMs?" No. Like our direct messages on Instagram.
When people want to talk to us.
Yeah, I was so embarrassed.
Went back to his basement.
Yeah, went back to the basement. I tried to summon the devil.
The other role you can assume is the player character, which is everyone else. You create your guy, your person, and then you play like you're that character in a world of whatever making you want to be.
Right, and the main difference is the DM is going to organize the setting. They're going to have all the non-player characters, the NPCs, and they're going to help devise the plot hooks that the player characters, the PCs, are going to go through and mess up entirely. as they try to figure out how to solve this puzzle that was meant to be circle goes in circle shape and square goes in square shape, but for some reason they found a way to put the circle in the square, and then they cut the square to put it through the circle. It happens every time.
Every time. Yep. The funny joke I've always heard is like, yeah, puzzles for kindergartners or whatever. It's like prepping my next session with my friends for D&D.
Right. Now, I've DM'd a lot more than I have played as a player character, and every time I've done puzzles, it's been that.
Yep.
I'll look up 20 puzzles for first graders, and then I'll be like, okay, I can reskin this puzzle to be in the campaign right here. And I think it's going to be easy, but that's because I've looked at it, I know the answer. And then I guess when it's reskinned to be, a hobgoblin and a player character, for some reason, just logic goes out the window and it's gone forever.
It gets wild. It's fun though.
There are some very classic examples of people getting dumbed down too that are not just in like a puzzle way. There's a very popular D&D show called Critical Role. They have a live stream they do. They also have an Amazon Prime Legends of Vox Machina show you can watch, which is really good. I recommend watching it. Even if you're not interested in playing D&D, it's still a good show.
It's just a fun fantasy cartoon with magic and dragons and
Scanlan.
Yeah.
But in one of their seasons, the second season, there's a part where they are exploring, the player characters are exploring a basement that has some clues and plot hooks that the dungeon master had put together. And in there is a singular chair, which is meant to be, hey, the person you were looking for was tied up to this chair and interrogated. And the player characters spend way too much time trying to figure out what the hell is wrong with this chair.
What's the secret?
There has to be something with the chair, right? Like the chair's a mimic? The chair's going to come alive. No? The chair is magical. No? It's just a chair. But it's probably, I don't know if you've seen that episode. It's like 30 minutes of them messing around with this chair, trying to figure out the significance of a chair.
It's so funny too, because like from the outside perspective, I was like, oh, I know exactly what this is.
Yeah.
Why are they so concerned about it? But I think when you're in the moment, it does get a little bit harder to like.
It does. A very classic example of that, once again, letting us know we're not smarter than the fifth grader, is that Dungeons & Dragons uses dice. Uses a variety of dice to kind of simulate probability. We have our D20, which is just going to be a 20-sided dice with a number 1 through 20 on each different side. You roll it, whatever it lands on is your number for what you're trying to do.
And you can add different modifiers depending on how you've made your character and like the likelihood of the scenario to actually like come true.
Right. And that's the part where I get reminded all the time that I'm not smarter than a fifth grader, because I'll roll it and I'll know that what I'm trying to do, I get a bonus of +3. And then I'll roll a 17. I'll be like, 17 plus 3 is 19. No, 21. No,
quick math.
20, right?
It's so funny because there's no pressure to do it fast.
Yeah, none whatsoever. Yeah. And it's all just super basic math. Usually it's like, oh, I have a +7. I rolled a 14, 21. But for some reason, brain shut off and go stupid, and you forget how math works. There's also different dice. You have your D12, you have a D10, D8, your D4s, which are great for home invasions. Not doing them, but preventing them.
They're just sharp Legos.
Yeah, they're little pyramids that will go through and kind of stab your feet if you ever drop them. With D&D, one of the things we want to go through is similar to, if you guys watch our Magic episode, how we got into Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah.
The way I got into it was working at the job where I thought two girls were talking about their dungeon master, and they weren't.
Imagine if they were, though.
Oh, it would have been amazing.
But no, not D&D.
Oh.
Different world.
Different, yeah, completely different one. I had a coworker there who invited me to go play Pathfinder, which is a spin-off of Dungeons & Dragons, because Dungeons & Dragons has had several editions. Some people liked one edition more than the other one. And when Dungeons & Dragons moved on, they decided, you know what? Let's take this and evolve it a little bit.
Well, let's stick with this version, change it up a little bit, and then not get sued.
Pretty good idea.
Yeah.
So we're playing Pathfinder while watching Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which is also my introduction to Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
Two great things.
Where I played a rogue, and my sole goal was to be the comic relief of the thing, because I didn't know what I was doing or how to play the game, and I was like, at least I can try to be funny.
Yeah.
And we played after a few sessions. I started figuring out a little bit more. I went to that phase of getting obsessed with making characters. So we would make a character. And I'm like, oh, it's going to be so cool. I can't wait to do this. And then you would never do anything about it.
Yeah.
And eventually, I moved in with this guy. And we all had, every living there had the idea to run a D&D campaign. So one time we had some friends come over, and we had 2 separate campaigns that were going to run at the same time. And they were going to be like rival campaigns, rival parties in the same world, occasionally intersecting. Did not end up happening.
No.
Which is just the theme of Dungeons and Dragons. What did end up happening, though, is for like the next 2 years, I DM'd for the group that I started DMing for, and then the other players slowly came over to the one I was playing as well. And I went from having 3 player characters to I think I had 7 at one point, and it was a lot. And then the pandemic hit, and I haven't played really much since.
Wah.
Until I played a French character with you.
Oui.
Oh, oui.
That was fun. Yeah, I started. It was funny because I didn't even hear about like the stereotypes of D&D.
I had no idea about him either.
I had no knowledge of it, never heard of it, which is weird because I've played video games like my whole life.
Yeah.
But that area of nerdom just never hit me. But I was living with a guy I met on Craigslist or whatever. Very smart of me to just move in with this guy.
How many times have you done that?
Twice.
Twice?
The second time I was a lot smarter, you know.
Yeah.
I did like a little bit more questions and kind of like a background check almost.
Yeah.
This first guy, it was just like, oh, it's a house with a dude. Okay. Met him. I was like, cool, this room looks good. I'll move in with you.
Right now, right? How much?
Then it just like slowly started learning more and more about him.
Oh, yeah.
But he was super nice. It was fine. It worked out. No, nothing was learned.
Right.
But one day we were like hanging out or whatever. I think we were drinking, and he was just like, have you ever played? And I was like, oh, no, I've never heard of it. He's like, okay. And then he just basically did what we did in the intro where he's like, hey, you're walking down this path, and it's like really foggy outside. And then you think you see this, and then there's this cave. It's like, what do you do? And we didn't do any dice rolling. It was just kind of like a narrative experience. But that was my first look into it.
You know, I completely lied to you guys, actually. That reminds me. For those of you who are the OGs and remember us at the Kickback way back when, before even many videos were out, we had Anthony with us. I've known Anthony for a very, very long time, and his aunt plays D&D. And when I was in probably 9th grade, I was hanging out with Anthony, and we were driving back or getting a ride back from his aunt to our neighborhood. And when we were down there, Anthony said, yeah, my aunt likes to play D&D. I asked her if she could run us through like a little simulation of what it would be. And it was a lot like the one where you had, where we were just in the forest and there was a werewolf there that we were attacking. And she just explained to us what we had on us, asked us what we wanted to do, and then explained the narrative process of what happened. I completely forgot about that.
Just had to steal my story. That's fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think that's what the essence boils down to is there's a world in the dungeon master's mind, and then the players just say, I want to do X. And then the DM explains, here's the result of that. And then you add in all the other things to make it more complicated and fun. But
right, yeah, to add a little bit of rules to it. Those rules let you have some really cool moments, right? Because if you were just narrating it the whole way through, it could kind of go wherever, and there's no, I guess, marker for when something should happen, when something shouldn't happen, what's cool, what's not. When you have the dice involved, it really makes it cool when you know the probability of something happening and your dice landed the right way and that thing can happen.
Yeah.
So I have a few moments that I've DM'd that I thought were really, really cool. Both of them would be centered around my little brother's character. He was playing a warlock, which is one of the classes, and their whole idea is that they made a deal with the devil and gained some sort of power from it.
Smart.
And he was a blade pact, which means he used a sword as well as some magic here and there. And the first one was he was on top of a burning building. And the person he was fighting started to go down the ladder to run away from him because he was getting, beat up. So my little brother decides, hey, can I jump off of the building and on my way down use my sword to stab into the character?
Ooh, fun.
Which, as far as the rules go, there's not a rule for that. There's a rule of cool idea for it instead. I let him do it, let him roll. He got a critical. So I'm like, yeah, you jump down, you stab right into his tricep, going through him, and you slam him to the ground. Regardless of his hit points, that guy's dead.
Probably not his tricep.
What'd I say?
Tricep.
Oh crap!
Probably not slicing all the way through his tricep. Critical. You hurt his arm a little bit.
Yeah, his trapezoid. The other one was a Coliseum fight that he had gotten himself into, and the rest of the party had made bets against it. It was something they actually really needed because they were in trouble for money. I don't know if you were part of this.
I don't think so.
Okay, it might have been before you came and joined the campaign. So they're in a Coliseum, and they are fighting back and forth. And it's getting to a point where they know roughly how well the enemy's looking, the other guy, and they know that he's getting close, but we also know that my little brother's character is at like 2 hit points. And it doesn't matter what happens, the person's gonna kill him on his next hit if he lands. So there's a couple options. Everybody's trying to figure out, do we cheat? How can I dimension door in, grab him and get out? How can I turn him invisible so he can run away? How can X, Y, or Z happen? And my little brother goes, I'm just gonna go for it. And he needed, from what I saw, right? I was like, you need to do like as much damage as possible. You need to probably crit on both hits and roll well on him. He doesn't know that, right? They just know that he's looking worse for wear. So maybe he's close. He goes up, has his sword, swings, gets a critical hit, which means he does extra damage. Extra cool things happen. He hit a 20 on his D20 die, and he is above 5th level, which means he has 2 attacks. So he goes for a second one, critted again. Got 2 crits and was able to bring him down below his hit points, which was just a cool moment of like, tensions are high. We know what's going to happen if you fail, which is your character's going to die.
Yeah.
Right? That's kind
high
of
stakes.
the negotiation of this Coliseum fight. And he decided to wing with it, and he got an almost impossible double 20.
I mean, not almost impossible, but very unlikely. Like
very, very unlikely.
What, 1 in 400?
Something like that,
to get double crits? Very unlikely. Very cool.
Oh, yeah. Super awesome. I'm going to move Milo here.
One of the coolest moments I've had, and it's interesting, I think, because it's a little bit different than the one you chose, where those are really cool things that happened, and like you beat the odds to do something good. We were in a fight. I was playing a wild magic sorcerer.
Okay, love it.
And we were in the basement of a tavern fighting a handful of dudes. I believe they were vampires.
Okay.
And we're fighting, and I go for kind of like a Hail Mary, like you can duel your spell, so you hit 2 dudes, and I was trying to like trap them in the basement with us. Wild magic surge, which means you roll on a table and a random spell happens. Could be good, could be bad, could be like your hair color changes, like nothing consequential. Well, I got you cast Fireball centered on yourself.
Fireball is one of the like the quintessential spells of D&D, right? Where you just throw a giant fireball and it explodes and cool stuff happens. You do a lot of damage. So what is isn't that like a 90 or above? One of the harder ones to get?
It was unlikely. Yes. Yeah. It was very unlikely to be that bad. It hurt, basically changed the fight so that we won the fight, but it also downed one of my allies, one of my friends, and made them go unconscious. They almost died. We revived them. We got out of there. Everything was good. But the way that worked with who my character was, he was like a very guilt-ridden dude who lost his sister because he wasn't strong enough to defend her. So that his whole mission is overcoming that and basically never letting anyone down again. And then he accidentally almost killed one of his new friends. And it felt so perfect for him. Like winning the fight with that spell would have been less fun, I feel like.
Right. And I think that adds on to the next topic on here, which are the different ways to play D&D, right? You can build one that's a lot more character driven, which I think is amazing. When you build a character, there are a few things on there that you can do, such as give your character a fault, right? You can say, my character has this fault to them. They want to make sure that they never do anything to hurt their allies. And sometimes they can be in a situation where you need to do something that might hurt an ally, such as the example we gave at the very beginning of this, where what if the ranger has the fault where they don't want to hurt their ally? They might be hesitating to shoot an arrow in the direction of their ally, because what if they don't hit the hobgoblin's hand? What if they miss and it hits the ally?
Or what if they fire, they miss both, and that results in the hobgoblin pulling the dagger.
Right.
Like,
and
either way, you're putting your friend's life in your hands, kind of.
Mm-hmm. There are a few other ways. There's one of the old school dungeon diver ways where the equipment you carry is just as important as the skills you have. Right. A very, I guess, prominent example people had is you would have a 10-foot stick. And the idea behind that is you're walking through some Tetris dungeon, and some of the floor tiles are trapped.
Like
they're going to fall through.
Yeah, it can get so intricate that the dungeon master has like a map of like squares. Every square is 5 feet, so a 10-foot pole could reach like the 2 squares in front and tap it.
Right, and see whether or not it's a real tile or if it's going to fall apart. And that's a lot more grindy. The world is out to kill me, and I'm going to slowly go through this one. Or you can have one that's a little bit more political, where instead of going through a treacherous dungeon, maybe you're in a tense political situation where, for whatever reason, you need to gain favor with one political leader. So you're doing a lot of role play, where you're talking to them, stakes are really high. Every role you make matters on how well you persuade them, how well you're able to lie to them to get what you want.
Even though it's not mattering in the sense that like you're going to get cut by a sword, you're going to maybe get thrown in jail, maybe let your own home nation down or something, or whatever the stakes are. And
one thing that's cool about this version of it is it's very world building, right? Because you're not dealing with one small cave. You're dealing with a political entity. In order to have a political entity, you probably need a world. And then to have that world, you're going to need, or to have turmoil between the political entities, you need to have another.
You need multiple countries with different belief systems, and how do they collide? And then how might you maneuver them to not collide and be teams, or resolve their differences at least?
Mm-hmm. And then those are just 3 examples. There are tons of ways to play. I think from the experiences I've had, the most common way is a little bit of everything in there. Right.
Yeah.
And I think an example is to go back to Critical Role. In their first campaign, they have a character named Percival, who is the son of a political family. Mm-hmm. And another political family comes in, kills his family. He runs away, and now his character has a reason to go back. His character is driven to go to the Briarwoods and try to kill them and reclaim his country, to avenge his family and become the leader of this nation, which is a cool way to kind of bring in the political side of it, but also have a very character-driven reason to do something, where their fault or their flaw might be they only care about getting this done, right? Yeah. They don't really care at the end of the day if they need to be a bad person, if they need to murder innocent people, as long as this is done, which I think is a cool way to kind of mix them back and forth.
Yeah, you can have as much crawling through the dungeon, slow pace, or high-level political stuff, or anything in between with your characters. I think mixing it is the best, and every group might do that slightly differently.
Right. Another example is there's a famous module known for how deadly it is, which is the Tomb of Annihilation.
Good name.
And it's meant to be a Dungeon Delver style module where you could just die by making the wrong choice, right? Maybe you go down the left hallway and the door closes, and now the wall is closing in on you. And if you don't have the right equipment to stop that wall from closing in on you, you're going to get squished. You're going to die.
Yep.
Well, one of the, famous stories of how this dungeon was solved by, I think it was Gary Gygax's group, who is the founder, the creator of Dungeons & Dragons. His players did some political shenanigans, and they befriended a war tribe of orcs. And they were able to convince them through persuasion rolls and politics to go into this tomb for them. So they were just sending wave after wave of orc into the dungeon, and they would find all the traps for the player characters, and then the player characters were able to just walk through it because all the traps have been triggered, which is
so smart.
Yeah, it's a way to play, right?
I mean, yeah, as long as your characters don't care about,
morality.
Yeah, who cares? I mean, they're whatever, different race than me.
But I guess all in all is to say that the game can be incredibly fun because you can really get into your character. You can really get into the role of trying to figure out this political debate, this turmoil, or you can really just try to solve the puzzle of the dungeon, which I think brings us to the question we asked earlier.
Yeah.
Right? You're back in the starting location. You're there standing in front of the hobgoblin, and they have a dagger up to your ally's throat. What do you do? Do you attack and risk their life? Do you try to talk them down and hope that they listen? I don't know.
Do you have a different solution?
Yeah. Go and leave a comment down below to let us know what you would do, and I'll tell you whether or not I succeeded.
Perfect.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and go comment down below.
See ya.